I wanted to take a little bit of time today to look at a choice that I make pretty frequently when doing lectures. I call it the what if scenario, and that particular questioning strategy on my part has multiple benefits for both myself and for my students. At its base level, it is a formative assessment that allows me to check for a student understanding of a concept. So, for example, here, we're looking at velocity graphs that are linear and how they produce a nonlinear position graph. So, when I ask my what if question, I can check for understanding about the relationship between those two graphs in a very formative way with very little risk on student part. It also, by asking the what if question, I can move students from simply agreeing with what's happening at the board to making predictions. And then finally, an additional benefit that the what if situation, what if scenario brings is that it breaks up the lecture and brings students into the conversation pretty readily. And I want to show exactly how in a moment. So the very specific what if scenario that I asked in this lesson was what happens if I simply slide the velocity graph up from starting at the origin, if I slide it up so that it has a non-zero initial velocity. How does that change the position graph? I'll ask that question and then I'll say very explicitly that I'm waiting for 6 or 7 hands to go up, and at that point I can give students plenty of wait time. I can start counting hands, and they know I'm not going to just pick the first student whose hand goes up. After waiting for 6 or 7 or perhaps more hands going up, I'll select someone to make a prediction, and they may or may not be right, but we'll follow up with showing sort of a correct answer here, as shown in this particular lesson. Once we establish the concept here of how this velocity graph changes the position graph, I might ask another what if by moving the velocity graph below the x-axis, or perhaps changing the slope, or maybe reversing it and moving the position graph and asking what kind of velocity graph that would generate. In any case, it opens up quite a number of doors for me for checking for understanding, for pulling students into the conversation, and for moving them past just mere head nodding and agreement into the realm of thinking and engaging with the actual topic.